Hey! Welcome. Ready to explore culture, religion, and trends? Stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome to Bridging the Gap. I am your host, Marilyn, and I am a freshman at Columbia University. On this podcast, we will be focusing on exploring a variety of cultures, beliefs, and trends. I am a pre-medical student with an array of interests which include Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so kicking some behind, yoga to help me find my zen, and dance for fun. Thank you for joining me today. With the whole outbreak of the coronavirus, life may seem different from most as of now. The coronavirus pandemic has changed the way most move about in their daily lives. Most people are now working from home, our social interactions have changed, schooling is online, most are now wearing facial masks, and we see that there is a greater emphasis when it comes to hygiene. So that means washing your hands and covering your nose and mouth when coughing and sneezing. Hospitals are not allowing visitors except in special situations. People who have other ailments are afraid of going to the hospital, and only essential surgeries are being performed. All of these preemptive measures are being executed in an effort to slow the spread of the virus. There have been some positives and negatives that have come about as a result of this pandemic, although the negatives unfortunately far outweigh the positives. A positive is that families that are in quarantine are now spending more time with one another. As for the negatives, healthcare providers have had to quarantine and isolate themselves from their family members in order to reduce the risk of passing along this virus. This pandemic has also caused less frequent outpatient visits to hospitals for patients seeking help for chronic illnesses. People who suffer from depression and anxiety have had flare-ups of their symptoms, and some who have never experienced these conditions have now developed them. Some of these patients are now turning to anxiety medications, alcohol, cigarettes, and sometimes illegal drugs as a coping mechanism. Grandparents have also had to isolate themselves from their families, and as a result, most are lonely. My mother recently told me that at the hospital she works in, an elderly patient tried to commit suicide because he felt lonely and isolated. This particular patient shot himself in an attempt to take away his life to escape the depression he felt. Unfortunately, such occurrences are not isolated, as there have been cases reported around the world about suicidal attempts and deaths as a result of the effect of this pandemic on different individuals. People are now wearing facial masks, as I mentioned earlier, and now a majority of individuals are having limited interactions with each other. Close contact is something that is to be definitely avoided at the moment. No hugs and or handshakes. The only way most are able to communicate with each other is by using technology during this pressing time. And unfortunately, some have even lost their jobs and are trying to find ways to make ends meet. All of this can take a toll on people's psychological health, and there are many out there who are trying to deal with and process everything that is happening at the moment. We may all be wondering how certain groups of people are dealing with and handling this situation. This can definitely vary from person to person and also across different racial groups. You don't want to miss my next podcast, as I will have youths from different cultural and racial backgrounds giving me their perspective on how they are dealing with this pandemic. It will be interesting to find out if differences in racial and cultural backgrounds influence response to this crisis. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for future podcast audios and don't forget to subscribe. Join me on this journey of bridging the gap in hopes of learning and growing with one another. Peace.